Hi, this is Joe from Man Beach Running Club, and here's a few thoughts on how often you should race. So there's many factors to be taken into account when you're looking at how many races you're going to do throughout the year. You've got factors including experience and how many years you've been running, also time available and the commitments you have day to day, and things like health and psychological factors as well. So many non-elite runners and beginner runners often race sporadically and choose their races based on what pops up on Facebook or what they see on Instagram or something a friend recommends, and they have no plan or strategy as to how they're going to plan out their year and which races they're going to enter. And this can really be to your detriment, not just in terms of your racing, but also in terms of your health as well. So it can lead to injury, it can lead to problems further on down the line. Elite runners, on the other hand, they often train a lot more than non-elites. They have a plan in mind of what they're going to do throughout the year and actually race a lot less. So we want to try and be more about like the elite runners if possible, as opposed to like a beginner runner. We want to avoid those schoolboy errors. External factors can be things like your climate, where you live, could be altitude taken into account as well. For me in Sydney, in Australia, it's a really hot place to live, especially in the summer. So November, December and January can be very difficult times for me to race, particularly as I have English blood, which doesn't really lend itself to running in the heats. If you live in Perth or Darwin, again, it's even hotter in those places. So it's really worth taking into account what time of year you're racing, which races you're entering, and where those races are. Work commitments and family obligations play a massive role in terms of planning out your racing. It's great making plans and sort of having aspirational ideas of what you want to do, but in the real world, we all have to earn a crust. We have to pay mortgage or rent or pay the bills, and we all have to look after our family. So it's important to try and get a good balance of work, family commitments and racing as well. Physiologically and more sort of practically, it takes at least 10 weeks to prepare properly and to prepare well for a race. So it takes several races to actually get into peak condition. So if you're going for a PB in the half marathon or the marathon, for instance, it might take you 3 or 4 races to get into that peak condition. So in the last race, the 4th race, you can really smash out a fantastic time. And the other thing to think about as well physiologically is everyone needs some recovery time after each race. So the general rule with racing half marathons and marathons and 10Ks is you need about 1 day per mile of rest after the event. So if we're talking about half marathon, you'd need 13 days after that event to recover properly after the event, or for a marathon it might be 26 days. And that's based on someone that's relatively fit. If it's your first marathon or your first half marathon, it might be even longer. So someone running their first marathon, it might be 3 months to get back to your fully recovered previous fitness. So let's say it takes 10 weeks to train for an event, then it takes 2 weeks or 1 or 2 weeks to taper, to sort of get rested before you hit the start line. Then after your race, you've got 2 to 4 weeks of recovery to get fully recovered after the event, so you're not going to be causing injury or jumping straight back in and causing stress fractures or sore muscles. So that's a total of about 18 weeks or so to go through that cycle of train, taper, race and recover. So 18 weeks, let's say it's about 4.5 months. So that would suggest that racing at 100%, fully exerted, 110%, you should really only do 2 or 3 times per year. So I would advise 2 or 3 times per year is how often you should race. That's what I do. So that said, you might have 2 or 3 A races per year, but you might have a couple of sort of fun runs. Maybe you'll have the City to Surf, or you'll have a 5K fun run or a Coco Park run. So what I would suggest is you could incorporate those B races into your training for your A race. So City to Surf, for example, is 14K. You can incorporate that into your Sydney Marathon training as a lead up to the marathon from August City to Surf to September Sydney Marathon. So your City to Surf in August could be a recovery run as part of your training schedule. So that's a few ideas on how often to race. Again, everyone is different. Everyone has different recovery times and different abilities and different levels of experience. This is just a very rough guide. I would suggest you never outrun your running. Don't train and end up injured, and try to be conservative and keep on that healthy side where you're enjoying your running and you're getting good times. Okay, well, I hope that's helpful. Happy running. Bye.